Namaste and welcome. Yoga. Most have only scratched the surface. Its true power and depth has only been realized by a few. Today on the Festival of Bharat talk show, our guest, a yogic warrior, a deep meditator, has used the power of yoga to combat cancer and has helped so many with their own life challenges. Let's listen to his story and his deep insights on various dharmic topics. A warm welcome to Neil Patel ji.
Namaste. Thank you, Patel. Thank you, Patel.
Namaste. How are you today, sir?
I'm superb. I'm absolutely wonderful. Thank you for inviting me here, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
So I'm Patel, your host today. 22 years ago, you were diagnosed with cancer with a prognosis of just 5 years to live. You refused conventional treatment, and you are now known as the Miracle Man by the oncologists. They've named you this. Please tell us your story.
Oh, well, thank you for asking, Biology. Well, yeah, as you said, I was diagnosed with cancer in the year 2000. I found a lump in my thigh on the 1st of January of 2000, just at the stroke of the millennium. And then within a couple of months, the doctors had diagnosed sarcoma, rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a muscle tumor, which is in my thigh. And this continued for several months. And they wanted me to go and do chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and surgery. But when I looked into the outcome of those things, in my particular case, it would have meant an amputation and less chance of surviving for 5-10 years. So in the end, I decided to just do my own thing and to try and use the yoga, which I had been practicing for a few years beforehand and which was in my family, to see if I could combat and manage the cancer myself. So here I am 22 years later, living on the power of yoga, spirit, meditation, asana, positive thinking, and that's it. I'm alive.
There's something you have brought into your philosophy of yoga, which is mind yoga. You talk about this a lot. So would you like to explain the intricacies of how, in respect to this, it helped you in working with your cancer?
Well, very quickly, I realized that cancer was being produced within my own body. And for anything to happen inside my own body, there must be a cause which has come from my consciousness. Because the only thing that's controlling my body is my mind, or my thoughts, or my karma, or something at a conscious level. So I decided to go to the root of my consciousness, which is my mind, and look at the samskaras, the grooves of thought, the habits, the patterns, the consciousness which I used every day, and change all of those things from the level of my thoughts about money, thoughts about friends, thoughts about God, thoughts about change, thoughts about death. Every single thought that I engaged with, I changed. I wrote a book called Mind Yoga, and I changed all my thoughts in the hope that those thoughts would then cascade down my nervous system, waterfall-like, into my genes and into my cells and into all the parts of my body, my DNA, my RNA, and adapt the cancer so that it would stop doing what it was trying to do, which was clearly to kill me. So fortunately, through that method of mind control, I managed to seize the cancer and to obstruct it from its path, which was to spread around the human body, to the lungs and to the brain, and then to do what it wanted to do. When my doctors found out that this is what I was doing and that I was not taking any treatment from them, they were a bit horrified, naturally. And so they said that normally people would die within a year with this type of cancer. When they found it, it was already 15 centimeters large and grade 3. And today I still have the cancer, but I'm also still here.
How do you manage your cancer, knowing, living every day with it there? Does it frighten you? Does it? Do you live with fear, or have you conquered it in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's a case. I come from a yogic background. I've taught yoga for 32 years. So my philosophy on life and the body is that it's soul over cells. It's a very simple formula: soul over cells, or Atman over the body. Soul over cells. I just simply believe that I'm a child of God. God made each and every single one of us. He made each and every single one of us with his power, his capacity, his ability in our Atman. And so I would not be a true yogi if I put more faith in Maya, cosmic delusion, which has created the cells of my body and created the form and shape of my body. I would not be a yogi if I put more faith in disease than in my ability to manifest and hold ease. God has given me ease. He's given me peace. So as long as every day I meditate on peace, then logic tells me that I am more powerful than the cells. Because if I rationally, in my supreme state of mind, believe that my soul is more powerful than my cells, then I am going to win. I'm never going to be beaten by cancer until the day I stop believing in God. And until I stop believing in Brahman, till I stop believing in the truth, till I stop believing in the Sanatana Dharma, till I stop believing in yoga, I don't believe that I can die of cancer. I have 24 centimeters tumor in my body, which is grade 3. It's primed to leave the site and to jump into my lymphatic system and spread to my lungs and my brain. That's its pathway. That's my prognosis. I shouldn't live more than a year, but it doesn't do that. And the only reason I believe it doesn't do that is because I have the power of God's Son awaken me through yoga, which doesn't allow it to follow its course.
How powerful, and how you've made it sound so easy. But that is really about conquering the mind, in my view. But following this, we can talk about meditation, conquering meditation, meditation help in working through this.
Well, meditation is the key to everything. Meditation is absolutely the key to everything, because the word meditation means concentration on the soul. Some people think of meditation as doing the gardening or having a walk or anything like this, but meditation is a very specific type of concentration. It's when your full attention is inward, all the senses are closed, and you're focused internally on the Atman, on Brahman, or in derivatives of that, like your chakras, internally. So when you're meditating, you are unifying, you're practicing yoga. Yoga means unification. When you're meditating, you are unifying with the source from whence you came, the source that created everything in our universe. So the moment you meditate and you plug yourself into the source of all life and all consciousness, you become electric to things like cancer and disease. Every time you meditate deeply and properly, you electrify all the toxicity, all the disease, all the negative thoughts, all the negative habits. They get a big burst of energy, and you decapitate their ability to do anything to you. So with regards to disease and cancer, the fact that I was meditating deeply every day, and I still do, I think that's what holds my disease at bay. It's meditation over medication. Meditation over medication.
Powerful, really powerful. What would you say to anybody who has recently been diagnosed with cancer? What would your advice be to them?
Celebrate. It's only through our struggles that we develop. Celebrate your struggles, for only through them shall you prosper. You have to look at your struggles as stepping stones to a higher place. When an ant looks at a step, it thinks it's a struggle that it can't overcome. But if it climbs that step, it gets to a new layer. So these obstacles are just steps. You just have to climb them. If you get diagnosed with cancer, thank the Lord. Smile to God. Say to him, thank you. You've given me a way that I can beat something which nobody else can beat, and I'm going to beat it. I'm going to stand on top of this step, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one you give me, and you'll never destroy me, because I'm your son. All you're doing is creating a staircase to you. So thank you, Lord, for all your struggles, for all your difficulties. I'm going to walk in fact, I'm going to run that staircase. Cancer, cancer after cancer, I will run no matter how many you give me, even until my body has gone. If that happens, even to me, I would have run to God. If God keeps giving me tumors and I have to keep stepping over them and eventually they take over my body and I'm gone, I'll be at the top of the staircase. I'll be walking into heaven at the same level. So I never fear anything.
That is so refreshing, because I think when people just hear the word cancer, they freeze, they get scared, they're in fear automatically, right? And I think that the starting point of losing that battle. And I think, I think we need to change our mindset over any disease. And like you said, just look at it in a respect to it's here, it's there, and it's now time to embrace it rather than just, consider it as an enemy all the time, right? And it feels to me you've embraced your cancer rather than looked at it as something you need to fight. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, look, we have to remember, we come back to yoga. I'm a yogi. The bottom line is I'm a yogi. If you are a yoga practitioner, a yoga student, and you preach yoga, and you think you know Sanatana Dharma, you think you know anything about Hinduism, about God, and you are scared of cancer, you should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed of yourself, and you should never utter God's name again. You should never call yourself God's child again if you have cancer and you're afraid, because you need to stand up and be proud of what he made you. He made you in his image. He made you as he is. We are baby gods on this earth. And the cancer industry, they know what they're doing when they make people afraid of cancer. They know what they're doing, because they're getting people into the system, and the system will thrive off people that are afraid. It's a commercial system. But when my doctor told me that I had cancer, I walked out of his surgery, and I felt like a boxer in a boxing ring going for my world title fight. I thought, great, fantastic, let me knock this thing out. I'm God's son. And I'm not embarrassed, ashamed. I don't feel like it's my ego talking. I am a soul, and I'm proud to say I have a father called Brahman. And whatever he puts in front of me, I'll prove to the world that I will defeat it. And now 22 years have gone. My doctors first told me that I'm going to die over and over again. This cancer will kill you. This cancer will kill you. They tried to scare me. They tried to scare me for years. And now they call me the miracle man. Now they tell all their patients to do yoga with me. I changed one of the greatest professors, oncologists, I won't mention his name, in the UK. He's working with the government now. He told me I'll die of cancer. He changed his mind and said, I said to him the other day, what's going to happen now? He said, I don't think you're going to die. He said, I don't think it's going to do anything to you. In fact, I'm right. 22 years he's seen me, biology. The last time I saw him, he wrote me off. He discharged me from hospital. He said, I don't want to see you again. There's no point. You're not going to do surgery, and it's not going to kill you. You've
Incredible.
created a miracle. We've never seen anything like it. It's not me. I don't take the credit. It's yoga. It's Brahman. It's God. It's God, Brahman, the Atman, the soul, whatever you want to call it.
Incredible.
God gave me cancer to prove to the world the power of yoga.
Yes, and you've helped, through your story and through, and whether they have cancer or not, I know personally you have helped so many people, and I think they have faith in you and your teachings because of your story, as a part of it. So I think, I think this is a story for to know, because examples of somebody who's been through such a journey and come out the other side. Like I said, most of us who practice yoga and meditation, we've only scratched the surface, right? And there's so much more to depth of yoga, where it can really make us feel so much more in control, feel alive feel so not in control, like it's about external factors and our fears as you're living in this sense of security because we're always fearful. So I think for me, you tell me that story, it's your story, it means that yoga has the power to make us feel in control, right? That's my one line of what you said.
People don't understand yoga today. People don't understand. They haven't got a clue. I mean, with no disrespect, some people do, to be fair. But mostly, I think people are also a little bit scared to talk about Brahman, to talk about the source and yoga. They're scared. They think that it will make them sound too kind of spiritual or too godly or too religious or whatever. But it's a very simple metaphysical fact within our Sanatana Dharma is that we are made of Brahman. We are made of Vishnu. We are made of Krishna. We are made of the Adipurva. We are made of the soul. We are the Atman. We are the universe, and the universe is us. One of the last things that the universe made was the atoms, was the little bit of body, which is where the cancer and the disease sits. It's the final thing. We are the greatest thing. And yoga is the science of getting to that top level. Don't beat around the bush. Asanas are good. Pranayama is good. The kriyas are good. All these things are good. But never forget that yoga is union with the source. Union is going back. Yoga is going back to Brahman. And I had to be forced into that battle because of cancer. I was forced by the source to say, don't worry about all these other aspects of yoga and all these things. Do them. They're very important. I teach asana, but never forget that it's me that you're looking for. You find your Atman and find Brahman, find the truth. That's yoga. Don't get lost in how your body looks and Instagram pictures of your asanas. Come to the source in meditation and find me and be one with me, and all your problems will disappear. Mental problems, emotional problems, physical. We have this big mental health issue that's going on in the world. Everyone has mental health problems. It's because their mind is focused on the wrong things. Their mind is absorbed in the ego and the way that the world is going on, the transformations and changes of the world. Yes, it happens. It affects us all. But the remedy is taking your mind and putting it back where it belongs, which is with Brahman, which is with the source, which is with God. And that's meditation, is plugging your mind back into the right place. And that's yoga. We should all be meditating more rather than talking about the physical aspects of yoga. They will do some 10% good, but you must spend time in meditation and teach it properly and understand it properly. Like I said, the only reason I'm so passionate about meditation is because I was forced to. I had no option. I would have lost my leg and my life without meditation. But nobody else has to come to my position. The audience, you don't have to suffer as much as I suffered. You don't have to even think about fighting cancer, many of you. So do the meditation now, in advance, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. Find a good teacher. Come to me, come to anyone else who can teach you. But do it in advance. Yoga is preventative mental medicine. Miraculous preventative mental medicine. Sorry, my passion pile is too much for yoga.
It's empowering. No, it's empowering. I think we need to hear this because I think most people get lost in the so many different messages and the everyday banter which is happening on social media here and that. And I think we need clear, simple messages. And Neilji, I think how you speak, and I've always felt this is extremely, extremely clear and simple. Something that we can actually follow and do. It's practical advice you're saying, which does work, and I'm witness of this, and so many I know are also. So yeah, thank you. Let's move on, actually on this and bring less clarity, shall I say, and go into the world of Sanatana Dharma. And you have used this word humanism instead. And let's, there's this whole thing right now, and I feel a lot of it is down to social media also, which causes a lot of religious, if you want to use a word, religious disharmony in the world, right? Where does Sanatana Dharma fit into this? What's your thoughts on religious and disharmony? Is it worse now due to freedom of expression or lies or whatever you would like to call it?
Look, I think that I think a lot of the religious disharmony is just confusion. A lot of it is just confusion. Humankind is just very confused at the moment because, if we go back maybe 2,000, 3,000 years ago, the world was not as interconnected as it is now, perhaps, or 1,000 years ago, let's say, for argument's sake, was not as interconnected. So God had to, Brahman had to find himself in different lands at different times, working through different people to give slightly different messages, wearing slightly different clothes and different disciplines. Essentially, it was all the same thing. It was love, the source of creation, love one another, love your family, don't kill your family, don't do this, don't do that. Similar type of commandments. We have the yamas in yoga, we have the 10 commandments in Christianity, and so on and so forth. So, and that was all working fine when everyone was in their own little land. But now travel and communication, expression, social media has come up. Everybody's looking at everybody's cultures and they're thinking, well, which one's right, my one or your one? In fact, they're all essentially okay. They're all essentially, if practiced in the right spirit, they're all essentially okay. But then when you get human ego involved, which is part of Maya and cosmic delusion, is that, well, mine can't be good and yours. Maya is the magic measure. It likes to find the number one and the number two and then the bigger land and the smaller land and the taller human and the richer wealth. That's Maya, cosmic delusion. It measures and creates, measurements of everything. We need to have some more. So people are starting to see which is bigger, which is better, which is mine, which is yours, which was first, who was first on this land, who was first on that land. And so we're getting confused with, first of all, which one is right, and then which one owns what. This is all cosmic delusion. This is all Maya, where essentially the truth of the matter is we are all identical in every single way. We don't feel different types of emotions and feelings. We all bleed red, as we know. So what I like to focus on is what's similar about the religions, what's similar about ourselves, what's good about another religion, what's good about this, and talk about the goodness and the goodness and the goodness between us all. Diseases like, I'll tell you something interesting, diseases like COVID-19, okay? When we get pandemics that cross the world, it's a great leveler, because it shows to the world we are all united. Whether we like it or not, we're all going to drink the same water, die under the same skies, and share the same diseases. Whether you like it or not, Brahman is in control. There is one source in control of everything, and it will spread it everywhere indiscriminately. Hindus got COVID, Muslims got COVID, Christians got COVID, Jews all equally got the same. Even within one same town, they all got it. And that's Brahman saying, you are all the same. I'm not interested in all these stupid divisions you're making. No one is better than the other. Now, when you come to Sanatana Dharma, the teachings of Sanatana Dharma has nothing to do with being owned by any particular culture or owned by any particular land or termed any particular religion. Sanatana Dharma came for everybody. It came for human beings. It's the science of life. And it was given in the Himalayan regions and in the old Lemuria regions of south of India. And it was developed by yogis and rishis and sages and sadhus. And over time, over generations, there were even avatars involved in it, Sapta rishis, manus. Everyone had their say in what Sanatana Dharma and truth was, and our Vedas. The Vedas were beings. The Vedas were actually living beings that were the first children of Lord Brahma. Were the four Vedas, his children. So these were the teachings of God that were put into Sanatana Dharma. But they were not for India. They were not for China. They were not for England. They were not for the Atlantic Ocean. They were for all the lands. That's why they were really developed in Himalayas so much, because Himalayas sat between Far East, Middle East, India, Europe, the land, Himalayas is the center of the world. Mount Meru, the seat, the navel of creation on earth is Himalayas. Where we get to Jambudvipa, the higher levels, is through the Himalayas. So the fact that Sanatana Dharma was created and given and worked on through the Himalayas and disseminated through the yogis and rishis of Himalayas means it's for creation. So that's why I call Sanatana Dharma the religion of humanism. Hinduism is a word which was given to us by the Greeks or some other nation. It wasn't given by Indians. It's based on the Indus civilization and the River Sindh. It's nothing to do with anything. Someone just chose a geographical area and said, "Oh, we'll call these dudes Hindus." Why do we call ourselves Hindus? It's not our name. Yes, Bharat is a better name for us, which is great. But the real name for India is Ajanabhavasha. Ajanabhavasha, which is God's navel. The first name of India was Ajanabhavasha, which is God's navel on the earth, his space. And at that, for that name didn't mean India, it meant the world. And that was the first name of India, was the name for the entire world, Ajanabhavasha. So, and Sanatana Dharma came from there. And the Sanatana Dharma was for all lands. That's why what I find is a little bit interesting is when we have Indians or Indians who'd like to feel like they have a right of Sanatana Dharma for Hinduism, where really it's for everybody. So I call it humanism. I'd rather use humanism than Hinduism any day.
I guess, to me, when you suggested that, it totally resonated with me, because that, it isn't, it shouldn't be classed as a religion, because when you use the word Hinduism, it feels like a religion, though, right?
And it's not a religion at all.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, India, which we might consider a Hindu country, is very, very open. It's always been super open to all people. It's the only country that's never invaded another country. It's very embracing. We've got great Christian community there, great Jewish community there, obviously great Islamic community there. We've invited and allowed Buddhists, everybody, because that is Sanatana Dharma principles.
Absolutely.
That is the embodiment of it. And another thing to remember about Sanatana Dharma, because I feel like it's the teachings of God, Brahman himself. Wherever the Sanatana Dharma goes within an individual, they are also embracing. They also have to accept other people. And just as God accepts other people and their flaws and their discrepancies, the Sanatana Dharmi has to accept everyone's flaws and discrepancies too.
I just thought of a question, because I see this a lot where there's a sense of needing to defend God or Bhagwan, or, if there's, and I see this within all communities. Do you think Bhagwan needs to be defended? Because sometimes we look at it in respect to our own selves and with our own with our own insecurities. So we feel there's a need to defend because of our human emotions, right? Like we would feel bad, so God would feel bad. Is there a need? This is where there's a lot of fight which also happens, right?
Absolutely, I agree with you, Balaji, on that. I love God with all my heart and soul, but I never defend him. Absolutely no need to defend him. He knows the mind of everybody who's attacking him. He knows their thoughts, their weapons, what they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it, what confusion they have. He's probably forgiven them before they've even tried to strike him. So God is everything. He's like the air. It's like trying to defend the air of the universe against a leaf. It's just there's no reason to. It's the air. God is God. His truth, his consciousness, his bliss, he's in everybody's souls. He's not afraid of anybody. No reason to defend him. And he will mete out his justice in his way. If there is justice to be given to someone that is attacking God, God will mete out his justice. He will send his justice in his way. I don't need to raise a finger.
Karma.
Beg pardon? Karma, and karma as
Karma?
well. Yeah. God will mete out his karma. But if I decide that I want to fight for God, and I do it in a way where I harm somebody else unnecessarily, then I've created karma for myself too. The way to defend God is show how loving he is. The way to defend God is show his principles within you. Like, for example, with my cancer, I would rather defend God by demonstrating that God's power in me does not allow me to die of cancer. That's my defense of God. Not saying, oh, you don't believe in God, I'm going to strike you down. You don't believe in Brahma, I'm going to strike you down. You don't believe in Allah, you don't believe in Christ, you don't believe in my things, I'm going to strike you down. I'd rather say, I have cancer for 22 years, and by the practice of loving my Father, God, Brahman, and allowing his energy into me in meditation, I'm fortunate to still be here. That's my defense.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's always bugged me because I always see a lot of people trying to defend, and I think it's such a, what you just said just makes so much sense. And for me, I was like, the most secure person, I have observed people who are extremely secure, and if someone throws them a comment, they're extremely resilient, nothing bothers them, right? And I feel God is even 10 times more than that, or 100 times, or 1,000, or infinite more than that. He doesn't need that. Nothing's going to really bother him or her, or So it's yeah, I think it's really important to discuss this further, because I think that's where us humans have our egos in the way, and we feel the need, and it's like also it's the same thing as when you feel the need to protect your family or defend them as well, right? Your ego sometimes, even though they could be wrong, you feel the need to protect or defend them.
Yeah, I mean, just on that point, what people need to be very careful of when it comes to protecting a religion, whichever religion it is, which is a God-based religion or a God's faith, is there is a line where you start to lose your religion by defending and fighting for it. So you've got to be very careful that you don't lose your God by protecting him. Very fine line. You've got to be very careful of that.
Really interesting. Let's move on to you're doing some writing on the Mahabharata.
I am doing that.
And yes, so there's of course lots of versions of the Mahabharata out there. So what's inspired you to write another version?
Yeah, I mean, I would never consider that I could write anything as good as what other authors have written about Mahabharata or the story itself. So my approach is to take a bit of a side glance at the Mahabharata and try to look at it, some interesting aspects of it, like how many names there are of India. Like I said to you earlier on, there are 15 different names of India, writing about that, what the word Mahabharata means, what the style of writing of the Mahabharata was. It's an itihasa, which is a type of writing which is eternal. The Mahabharata is itihasa. It's a story about then, it's a story about now, and it's a story about the future. So what all that means, writing about Sage Vyasa's background, writing about the fact that there were nuclear wars going on during the Mahabharata war, writing about the fact that there were flying spaceships going on during the Mahabharata war, and just afterwards, UFOs. So where those UFOs came from, and who made them, and how they made them. Writing about how Brahman created Vishnu to create Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and then go about creating the universe, and then having the Prajapatis, the sons, the Manus, and having the four Vedas, sending them down to earth, and then mixing the sun and the moon in with them, and creating the Surya Vansha dynasty and the Chandra Vansha dynasty, and how the Chandra Vansha dynasty made so many of the kings and ended up being part of Krishna's dynasty, and how the Surya Vansha made Rama's dynasty, and where those people are today, where those dynasties have ended up today. I'm interested in finding that out. So many kind of why the number 108 and 18 is always featured in this book of Mahabharata, because the war lasted 18 days and it killed 18 million people. There's 18 chapters in the Mahabharata. So these numbers keep coming up, so I write about that. So I'm taking a bit of a side glance at the side stories. I am writing about the war, Duryodhan and King Pandu and Krishna. I'm writing about that, but I'm not laboring on that as much as other authors have done, because they've obviously done a better job. There's no point repeating history. So I'm taking a bit of a side glance at it, but it's very, very interesting. And what inspired me is just the power of the story, really, the power of the Mahabharata. Mahabharata means great India, great Bharat. And it's not just, what people need to remember is Mahabharata is not just about the war. The war is 18 days. But Mahabharata is going back from when Brahma had a wish to create a world all the way up to modern day. That's the story of India. It's several millennia old, the Mahabharata. So I'm writing about that whole story rather than just the war.
Are you looking into texts, or is this from within through your own deep insights, your meditation?
No, I'm taking sources from everywhere. I am obviously meditating and feeling my way through the text, but I'm also reading. I'm also referring articles that have been written. I'm watching some of the movies that have been made about Mahabharata. I'm picking up bits of information from everywhere, and then sitting down on my own, meditating, and then writing what knowledge is coming through me. But so many great people have written so much information to distill from, and made so many great films and written articles. It's very rich, Mahabharata.
I'm looking forward to your version.
I've been writing since 2016, this book, and I think I'll probably finish in about 2026. All edited and done.
Wow, 10 years, a decade.
Yeah, probably.
Incredible.
It's a lot to write.
Okay, let's move on to the UK. Something that you've been working closely with, which is knife crime. And interestingly, today I just listened to the Home Secretary speak on crime in the UK, and she was addressing knife crime. And, of course, they're trying to work on this more and more, the policing here. But I think on a deeper level, there's something happening within society. How are you trying to help? What do you think is going on?
Well, I think the first thing that's going on is that we need to stop. Obviously, the most obvious place to start with is the young people that are using knives to harm one another. But I tend to be a little bit more liberal, a little bit more. I think they are a symptom of a greater problem. I think these young kids that are stabbing each other and unfortunately killing each other, I think it is a problem, but they're a symptom of a much greater problem. They're a symptom of, first of all, the families that they've come from. The family structure I think it's breaking to pieces in the UK, the structure of family and family support, but really that love for the family and extended family, that is really breaking down a lot in our country, in the UK. So I think some focus needs to go there, as well as the children. Are the families set up well? Do they understand? Is there enough family value going on there? Then you've got the level of the middle level, which is capitalism and commercialism, where a lot of our culture is about buy this, buy that, buy this new iPhone, buy this shiny car, go on this holiday, look like this person on social media, look like that person on social media, have this amount of money, but they're not taking into account these poor children who may have come from underprivileged backgrounds and difficult homes, who don't have the grades or the jobs and opportunities given to them to go and get those fancy things. So all they're left with is desire, but no pathway to fulfill it. So the world has given us desire, more Maya, get this, have this, but there's never thought to wonder, what if they can't get it? What it's like doing is having a set of children and then having one children that may have been born without legs for whatever reason, and then playing football in front of him all day and talking to him about how great football is, and not wondering how frustrated and difficult it must be for that child. And it's like that in our society, where we just put all these commercial things, we think it's fine, it's a free market, sell, sell, sell. But what about the ones who can't afford it? So then what happens is they create their own industry. They create an underworld drug industry and a crime industry where they have to make money on the underworld. And in that world, it's a law unto itself. And the only thing that's going to protect you and save you is your knife and your gun, right? So I look at that level. Then I look at the government, and the government seems to think that the answer to everything is lock people in prison. If you use a knife, we're going to put you in jail. If we use a knife, we're going to put you in jail. What they don't realize is that you can't lock somebody away who's already locked up inside themselves. You can't punish somebody who's already feeling punished, who's already killed themselves inside. You could take their life and they'll feel no pain because they're broken already. So that's why reoffending keeps happening. There should be yogis in the prison. There should be teachers. There should be a much better reform system so they come out having learned something. So, and then at the very top of the government, all you see is people blaming the children, blame, blame, blame. So if you keep calling these people bad all the time, then they are going to perform badly. Then they blame their music, hip hop music, drill music, grime music, all the music they listen to. They shouldn't be rapping about it. They shouldn't be talking about this life on the street of knife crime and whatever they're going through. But that's art, right? The Mahabharata is full of violence. 18 million people died in 18 days, which is 1 more million than the whole of World War I. And World War I lasted over a year or something. But that's Mahabharata. That's an expression of what happened. All these people are doing when they're expressing in rap is they're telling their story. That's all they know. So I think what I try to do is go in there and say, let me teach them meditation to help them to get through some of this anguish that they're feeling inside and this lack of love that they're feeling inside. So I go to the source. I take hip hop music, which I make. I'm a producer as well. And I found that the beat of hip hop is a good rhythm to breathe to. And I get them to do their breathing to this beat, and it slows their breathing down through pranayama, mental control, which slows their blood pressure down, which slows their level of aggression down, slows their brain waves down, and they feel calmness. And when they feel that their mind is calm, their soul can wake up, and then they start to feel peace. They start to feel contentment. And peace is the skin of the soul. Peace is the skin of the soul, and the soul is an aspect of God. So slowly, 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 as they meditate and breathe more, they feel calmer, less aggressive, and less likely to make wrong decisions, and better, more empowering decisions to break out of this cycle and understand this world a bit more better and to work their way around it, to achieve things, or even just say, okay, fine, I don't need these things of this world. I want to do more yoga, be at more peace with myself, and on and on. So that's what I try and do, is work through breathing and music to bring yoga to them in my way.
What springs to mind for me is love, and how that is severely lacking, I think, in society, especially in certain pockets. Sometimes down to broken families, like you said, and I think a lot of the times down to broken families, right? So this is something, if I don't really want to compare as such, but when I was living out in Bharat, I felt there were broken families there too. I saw, observed, living in awful conditions. But one thing I realized the difference was there could be single mothers bringing their children up with very little, no government support, nothing. But there was love. There was love in that society. There was love in those communities. The people, the mothers, the children, they were always smiling, always had this sense of hope. They had hope. But I don't see hope in those who may be in similar situations when we say externally here. whether it's their circumstance, a single mother, they're living with very little money, and haven't got the greatest opportunities, but you don't see that love or that hope in them. What do you think is going on?
Well, I think that with Bharat and even other countries that may be like that, one thing that holds the country together, if I may come back to it again, is spirituality. Even in India, even in abject poverty and in difficult circumstances, the country is surrounded with, you see a temple on every corner in India, in Bharat, all the time. Yeah. So the country is built on a culture of spirituality. They understand Brahman, God's presence, whatever religion they practice in Bharat. They have it as part of their culture. They always know God loves them. If nobody else loves them, their Bhagwan, their God, their source, their view of the spirit loves them and is there for them. And the culture is built around that. Whereas in the UK, a lot of that sense of natural spirituality is not there. The church is a system which hasn't done enough sensible outreach to the community in a way that they can understand and feel. And people are they're detached from their own spirituality and religion. So that's why I think yoga is important, because if I manage to bring yoga and breathing and meditation into the community, I'm bringing spirituality there. And spirituality is God's love. Spirituality is God's love. In India, Bharat, a lot of these countries, they have that naturally. God is part of life. So even if your parents are not there, or even if your home is broken down, you always know God is there. Brahman is there. Whatever you call your God is there. That's not the case in the UK. And God is the way that I describe yoga is a synonym for love, because yoga means union and union means love. So when you practice yoga, you're practicing loving the source again, loving God, loving Brahman again, and you'll feel it palpably. So when you're doing yoga, hopefully with these kids and these young adults, they'll feel the love inside them because God is within them.
I'm sure they will if they continue, because I think it's about the experience, right? And it's about them. Once you've connected or felt, you may get distracted for some time, but you'll always remember and you'll come back to it, I feel. So
yeah, I agree 100%. So
powerful, real powerful things. And I just feel it's we are so blessed. We are so blessed to know yoga and to know that we can have the depth, and you can reach the depth, and it can really transform your life. It's incredible. Do you have any concluding remarks, quotes, anything you'd like to share? You have many quick quotes. Anything you would like to share with the audience as a conclusion?
Well, all I would want people to remember all the time is that this is a dream. This whole universe is a dream in Lord Vishnu's, in Brahman's mind. It's all being dreamt into creation. All the structures that we see, all the numbers that we count with, all the systems, the lands, time, every single thing, even the physical human body, it's all a dream. And we're all going to wake up one day from this dream, and we're going to be in absolute shock that everything that we cared about, everything that we worried about, everything that we've spent our lives trying to protect and secure and hold and gain has all gone. And the only thing we have left is our consciousness and the contents of our heart. And I want people to live in a place where they know that this is all transitory and moving. And the more that they meditate every morning and connect with Brahman and connect with the source, the more they're going to feel what it's going to feel like to be liberated from this dream. And then when they're in this dream, they're not going to be affected by it as much, because they would have daily experiences of God's wisdom, love, and liberation inside their soul. So nothing will affect them. They will allow the world to move around them, but not to move them. I always say to my students, let the world move around you, but let it not move you. Be like the eye of the storm. Live in the eye of the storm, the center of the storm of a tornado. It's always quiet. Let it move, let it happen, but don't let it adjust or affect you. And just coming back to the cancer again, I believe that is why the cancer can't touch me, is because I'm watching it as much as it's watching me, and I'm watching it and I'm not being perturbed by it. I'm not being moved. I'm not being adjusted in my internal position. I'm as calm as I always have been. It's waiting for me to panic. And for 22 years, I haven't panicked once. I've never been afraid of disease. And so it has no way in. The minute you are scared of anything on this earth, it will destroy you. It's built to kill you. And the only thing that's going to keep you strong inside and out is the power of Brahman, God.
I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to spoil that end. So I'm just going to say Dhanyavad Neilji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience.
Thank you.
And please do subscribe.
Namaste.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.